we're gonna get started. Could you stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If you can all make sure that your phones are either turned off or on silent, please. Okay. We do have one to speak for public session, Mr. Curtis.
Thank you.
Can you let me know which item you're...
Well, it's actually none of them, but there is something about it. The newsletter just come out today. I want to say thank you for putting it out finally. A couple things in there that I did see that's submitted in there. So you don't have anything on the board elections. It's always in here about the 3 seats that are up. It's not in here. Also, the nothing on the meeting that you have in the auditorium. That's not in here for the budget presentation. There's one thing that I'd like to see as I watch it on the computer at home. I know we used to be able to do, you go down through and you do A, 1A through C or whatever. You guys just vote on from 1 to A to C. You really don't tell people what you're voting on. And I understand they can go in there and they can look, but it's hard to pull up 2 screens at the same time to say, hey, I'm voting on A through C, but you're not telling people what you're voting on. That is something that, you know, I would like you to think about, to just announce what you're voting on.
So, Mr. Curtis, there was a form online.
I understand. I couldn't get into the form because this just got to me today.
Oh, I completely understand, but then it would have needed to wait until the next meeting so that we could...
I want to get that addressed today because the 22nd is the deadline for the budget. Wolcott announced her 3 times in the paper. Redridge didn't put nothing.
I assume you
Nothing
mean about
whatsoever
the
in paper.
petitions for the board
Yeah.
election.
So
Okay.
Wolcott had 3
All right.
times in the paper. Redridge
Thank
did
you
not.
for your comments. I appreciate it. Okay, we're gonna move on. If you wanted to
Yep.
do Tyler.
Yeah, we have 2 presentations this evening. The first presentation will be from Mr. Taylor, our elementary school principal. So I'm going to call Mr. Taylor up. He's got a PowerPoint that he'll walk us through. So.
Good evening. How are you today? This is was such a difficult challenge to try to share like what's going on in Tyler because we have just so many things, right? And every time I thought I was finished, I'm like, oh, I had to pull up the flash drive and throw another piece on because there's just so many things on it. But I wanted to focus really on our strategic plan and where those 3 criteria. I know we share data with you and we share pieces with you in all of our admin reports, but a couple of little specific pieces about the educational excellence, cultural communication, and student experience. Of course, focused on our mission statement and vision statement. We want to make sure that we have a safe and supportive environment for all of our students, and we're trying to prepare them for the fundamental skills to be successful and contribute to society. So, one of the big pieces that we had this year, it was great to have the support of Haley Bybee as our MTSS coordinator, and that has been really helpful in trying to get our vision across and supporting the students. So Haley's supporting the MTSS, our tier 1, and I know we've talked about the tiers multiple times, we've talked about the different tiers and what that looks like, but really that tier 1 is our classroom, so everybody's getting this instruction. Our tier 2 pieces are the small groups that we have for all of our students K through 5. So UPK is a little bit more unique, but all students groups grades K through 5 go to small groups for about an hour every single day. So we have 2 30-minute times back to back, and we flip it. So we kind of focus, some students will be focused on ELA at one of those times, some will be focused on math. Some are focused on social emotional learning because during this time we will sometimes pull, we have that CELI from Peaceful School that comes in to support. We sometimes have building level services to come in to support with speech at that time as well. So we can grab our small groups and get down to very small, like 2 or 3 students at a time on that. So we bring all of the teachers together for that. So we'll have all the grade level teachers, including special ed, because in our district, in our building, we focus, all of our teachers together. And so including the special ed teachers, and again, like I said, all of our AIS providers, like I said, we have some of our outside providers as well, speech therapist or a setting or counseling services, go out for that during that small group time. And then of course, tier 3 is targeted for our students with special, with additional needs, students with disability. So what's been able to make this part of it, last year we were able to carve a little bit of time out for a daily meeting with all of our grade levels. So I meet with my grade levels about once a week, once every 6 days, with the rotation. So we are discussing multiple things. Sometimes we're discussing field trips coming up, because we do have some of those coming up pretty soon. But we're focused on we're looking at our pacing guides and how are we keeping up with our students and doing what's best for them. Every week we have a tier 2 meeting. So those at the tier 2 meetings, we bring quite a few providers together and say, what does this group of kids need? So teachers can do a request for support for students, and they throw that in, and then we talk about as a team what will work best for these students. The monthly tier 1 supports are really like that big overview piece, like the PBIS. That's of course our RAMs, and so that's the big piece for that. And we've been able to take this on 6-week intervals, looking at our progress monitoring. We take our daily meetings, my half-hour meetings daily, 25 minutes, and we found some additional coverages. So the teachers actually have about an hour and a half every 6 weeks to resort our groups. So what did we change? What can we change? What do we have to look forward to? Did we hit the targets? We're setting targets. This has been a really big thing this year. We're working on it, setting individual targets for those small groups. And then we come back after about 6 weeks and check it again. So getting some creative scheduling, we are able to find that extra hour and a half once every 6 weeks. And that little bit of extra time really supports it. So the teachers don't have to use just their planning time for it. They use their morning planning time in addition to some coverage for the classrooms. So it's been very beneficial for us. One of our second pieces of culture communication, we have so many things, and I know this is a lot of words, and I apologize, but we have our monthly RAMs, we have our star readers. This year we implemented some recognition out of the cafeteria, so that's sometimes why you might see some crumbs on the floor in here, because they get to come in. The classrooms that win the cafeteria recognition get to come in and have lunch in here. They watch, we'll watch PBIS or PBS or something like that. We just had a fantastic Inventive Minds. We were first overall. I know I shared that in my administrative report. So for the first time, we had the first place winner in our building also took first place, Kaylin Mack, with his life-saving belt. So it was awesome. We had 7 of the top 10. So that was great. Our Battle of the Books, we have our before school, so our community school support has been able to provide more things for our kids and support for families, because we can have kids be dropped out about 7:30. I know, I think I saw it. At about 7:30, we have this UPK bridge started this year, so the kids that are in pre-K can actually stay from 2:30 to 3:30 till normal dismissal, and then we have the after-school program. So some of our students are here from 7:30 to 5, Monday through Thursday. We offer 7:30 to 3:45 on Fridays. We don't have the after school for that. Also just started up a couple weeks ago was Girls on the Run. So the competition's the first Saturday this year of June, so it's not a Sunday. So I mean, there's good and bad, I guess, but that first competition, and we got girls running through the buildings. Nicer weather, we can go outside now. So, and then of course every week we have classroom readers. Mr. Poole, and he has a couple of classroom readers that come every week, and then we have the evening family literacy nights as well. Some of the student experiences pieces, the Rev Theater is just fantastic. It's just so awesome to see the Rev. Every time the kids love seeing it, and as they move up in grade levels, they get to interact differently with them and learn about the jobs and see those possibilities as they're going through. We have lots of field trips coming up. We've had 3 author visits this year already, which is fantastic, and we always have some books that are available for the classroom or for the students during those author visits. Lots of concerts, hovercraft. Today, the Wayne County Historical Society, this gentleman who's a retired teacher from Lyons, and I think he was in Geneva as well, he came in full garb to our 4th graders today. He set up a tent like it was in the Revolutionary War. One of our students had to learn how to use the latrine. He had stockades. I was in the stockade for a little bit. But, the kids, and all all you heard from down the hall was shouting, because he was so engaged with the kids. And apparently, this program has been around for quite a while, and we brought it back. This is the first time we brought it back. Lauren Nodine went and reached out to find it and brought him in. So that was great. And of course, we're very connected with the Legion and the Ladies Auxiliary as well. You know, the Valentine's for Veterans. We're gonna have our Flag Day coming up soon. They teach us about Americanism on a yearly basis. It's great. So we're going to continue focusing on these areas. This is our prime focus. We want to make sure that our kids are doing everything that we can to keep them moving instructionally and soundly, and keep those great connections in our buildings. You know, every single day in every single classroom in Kyler since September of 2020, we do circles. And so we're building those relationships with every family, every one of our classrooms. So we have 23 homerooms this year. We do that every day. We've been doing it every single day since September 2020. We start with those circles, that piece to build them together. Because, you know, we're still going to be a small family. You know, as they're going through the school, they're going to have those exact same friends. You know, they've got to learn to depend on each other and create that experience. So, thank you so much. I forgot. I want to throw that extra on there. That was Valentine's. That was February. It was warmer then than it was last week. It was spring break. But, very cool. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor?
I just have a couple.
Yeah.
I usually do, I know, sorry. And a couple of things you mentioned, I'm just looking for a little more information about them. The cafeteria recognition, I've heard about different things in different schools and such. What do we do here?
So we've been really, you know, our PBIS, our RAMS expectations, we've been spending a lot of time across the entire district, I know. But in the cafeteria, we've been helping our monitors to help our kids. And so the teachers remind them. So we have the same RAMS expectations in the cafeteria, which is a little bit different because it's going to be a little bit louder. It's still a cafeteria, and there's 110 kids or so, so it does get a little bit loud. But our cafeteria monitors each month select one homeroom per grade level. And so that homeroom that's been, you know, showing those RAMS expectations, so they get RAMS also. So they're getting their RAMS recognition during the cafeteria or you know, lunchtime. But then that one homeroom will, you know, have that extra recognition by having lunch. You know, you're usually with me, and we're watching for a little bit. And man, at the RAMS assemblies, you know, the kids start hitting the floor, they're down because they can't wait to see what it is. There's quite a bit of competition between the teachers, especially some of our teachers. Like, they get back to back because they can run it back to back. So that's been, you know, that's been a great piece for us. You know, thinking about a couple of other things for our cafeteria for next year, but you know, like that's definitely been a big one for us.
That's awesome. Sounds fun and engaging for the kids and the staff. That's great. Girls on the Run, I've heard of it. I'm not super familiar with it. And you said they're training, like what grades, like what ages
Yeah,
are
so
part of it?
third grade, third through, well, I think it actually goes to middle school. I'm not sure exactly what the middle school looks like, but our upper grades. And so weekly, or twice a week, the girls will stay after school and they have lessons that they're learning about empowerment and making sure that we're working together, and they train. And so they start doing a little bit of running each week or each day. And by the end of it, at the race, it's a 5K. And so it's at MCC. And so, I mean, MCC is really flat and it's wide open, but they run the whole campus as they come around. And so I will say it's really difficult. I asked the teachers last year, so we found a couple different ideas. It's hard to pick out all of our girls because we have a lot of girls that go. I think last year we were around 50, 55 altogether between the Kyler and the middle school. And it's hard when there's, you know, 1,000 girls all with face paint and same color t-shirts, you know, and their hair. So it's hard to find them all as I'm, you know, trying to pick them out as they're running by. But you know, we bring some cowbells and we make sure we have a good time with them as they're going. So it's a great piece, you know, to end with. You know, Dave Briggs has been, you know, crucial in leading it. But we have lots of coaches. You know, we've got parent volunteers and we have coaches that work with them. You know, so they work in small groups now, and then we finish with that big race on Saturday this year. So.
That's great. Thank you. That's all I had.
All right, next up is Mr. Smiley. I'm not sure where he's going.
Back to a seat.
Okay.
All right, so just to piggyback off of some of the information that Dennis gave you, our slides are going to look similar, but our information is going to be a little bit different, just because of the school. So, with our strategic plan, we are still, promoting educational excellence and trying to foster, that culture and increase communication with that student experience as well. Again, instructional vision. With our mission, everyone knows what our mission is, but I want you to take a look at our vision. And, with our data-driven decision-making process, the middle school has really dove in deep into using that data to create, academic success. And as I go through my slides, you'll see how we've really utilized this data, utilized the platforms, and utilized our strategic planning with our teachers to really create this nice piece of evidence. So, educational excellence. One thing that we do here in the middle school is we do promote academic achievement. So what you see is honor roll, high honor roll, and principals list. High honor roll is 85 to 90. Honor roll is 85 to 90. High honor roll is 90 to 95, and principals list is 95 to 100. And what's nice about this is, we want to create that culture of academic excellence, but what we've done with our PBIS Tier 1 is we've also offered incentives. So if your students have received any of these accolades or awards, they will get a certificate, they will get some sort of an incentive prize, whether it's candy or markers or some sort of incentive. In addition to that, we've done a really good job with trying to promote them as a school, like making it kind of cool to be on these lists, that academic success piece. And one way that we do that is on all of our monitors in the school, the students will be on lists, so the students will be able to walk through the hallways and they'll be able to see that academic success of their peers. In addition to that, the glass cupboards in the foyers, there's lists of students in there as well. Which is, it's a really nice piece to really try to embed that cultural incentive of doing well academically. So another piece of the academic success or excellence that we've been working on is I'm fortunate to have common grade level team planning and meetings. And so you look at all this assessment data that we do have now. You have the iReady and you have the FastBridge and you have that panorama platform that we've been working on. So what are we doing with all this data to really make an impact on the student achievement? So with this common grading period, we look at this data and we're able to assess, not only student achievement as a grade level, but with this panorama platform, we're really able to dive deep into, those tier 1, 2, 3 interventions, class size, class wide, that tier 1 intervention of what does that whole class need or that whole grade level need. And then with that panorama platform, which I'll get to you guys in a second, that allows us to dive a little deeper in, okay, so if we got to do a tier 2 intervention with say 10 students, maybe we're able to adjust them into an AIS reading program. Maybe we're able to pull them out of a study hall and give them extra supports. And then if we go into a tier 3 where it's more of a one-on-one, we're able to use this data to really focus on all 3 areas of that, which is extremely nice. And I can't reiterate how important it is that meeting with the grade level planning periods every day allows these teachers to really come up with these strategic plans to implement this data to use it successfully. So change gears a little bit. Individual student data meetings. So when we have 2 assessments that we're giving out 3 times a year, FastBridge and iReady, if you came in my office about 2 months ago with all the information that Mr. Vinny gave us of all of the assessment data and where we sit, I was looking at last year's scores and this year's scores, and one thing that we came up with collectively, and that would be MTSS, the tier 2, and my BLT, my guidance counselors, we came up with a system moving forward of what we're going to be doing. How do we create, with these assessments, how do we create the importance and goals for these students? So what we're doing is we're meeting with every student individually by grade level. And what they're gonna do is they have a folder that's going to follow them through middle school and high school of the Panorama platform, which is right here. And this is the platform that has iReady and FastBridge on it. So as you kind of look through this is what the student has in their folder. They will get it 3 times a year for every single one of the assessments. And in addition to this assessment, we also have a goal sheet. You're welcome. You have a goal sheet that has not only the social emotional piece of it, but also the academic goals of what they want to achieve. So when you guys browse through that, grade level teachers, Mrs. Keefe, Mrs. Wojak, and Mr. Melkett are meeting with these students individually. So Mrs. Keefe meets with the 6th grade, Wojak 7th, Mr. Melkett with the 8th. We are in the process of this right now. This is a new process, but this is a process that we want to implement now because our following assessment, they're going to be able to create these goals. So, what you're looking at is the panorama that has both FastBridge and iReady in it. They will meet with the students individually. They will look at where they stand and where they sit with their goals and their grades and their attendance. And the second sheet that follows them in that folder is going to be where they want to go, the goals of their academic success. Also, the tier 2 intervention piece, the social emotional piece, that's also part of that goal setting piece. And like I said before, this is just one more additive that we're going to put in to show the importance of what this data means. If it's not getting graded, how do we promote this within the student culture to create the importance of it? When we're meeting with these students one-on-one, it really shows that we are taking this stuff serious, but in addition to that, we're showing the growth individually. The students and the teachers have this nice bond. That's why we were able to choose those teachers to meet with these students. They have a relationship with them. So when they do meet, they're able to sit down and really have significant conversations when it comes down to where they want to progress. And these assessments are 3 times a year. So this system will be happening 3 times a year. The diagnostic assessment environment. This was another thing that we collectively came up with moving forward. So what's this look like? Well, when you have 2 different assessments, the iReady and the FastBridge, the iReady assessment takes about 90 minutes. So what we came up with was creating an environment that's very similar to state testing, Regents, where they're in the NLGI. We are going to go to a 2-hour delay schedule for both ELA and math for the iReady. So this will give these students significant amount of time to be able to complete these sections. With the FastBridge, we can complete them right in ELA class and math class because those are only like a 45-minute diagnostic. But when it comes down to creating that environment of importance, so as we reflect the common grading period, the teams are able to dive in using these platforms not only for this grade level, but they're also able to dive in individually to create that tier 1, 2, 3 interventions. Individual student data meetings. The students are really getting a one-on-one conversation with the teacher that they're familiar with to create some sort of a plan moving forward of what they want to achieve. These folders follow them throughout their middle school career into high school. And then creating this diagnostic assessment environment, really taking a second look on what those assessment tests look like and how we're administering. This is one of the summaries that the grade level teams will look at. This is a different section of that panorama platform that you guys have in front of you. What you have in front of you is what the student would receive. What you see up here is kind of like just a quick breakdown of grade level summaries and where they sit, but also student scores individually. So you can do that tier 1, 2, 3 type intervention. Really nice platform, really clean platform, really allows you to look at 2 different type of assessment at one time. I can't say enough good things about it. Culture and communication, the student experience. So PBIS Tier 1 and advisory. Mr. Wojak and Mrs. Wanek and Mr. Wojak have done a great job. I know, man, the two W's. They've done a great job with PBIS, Tier 1, and utilizing the advisory. You know, using, creating those social emotional pieces on a slide every day, which really creates a conducive through 6th grade through 8th grade. So every 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, during advisory, they are creating slides for that social emotional, the SEL piece. In addition to that, they've done a great job with PBIS rewards. So if a student is receiving these rewards, very similar to what the elementary and high school are doing with the Rams stickers and all the other incentives, this allows them to go online and actually purchase things. Earbuds or whatever they have the funds available allows them to pick what they want. Just another piece of incentive to create that type of culture where we want to promote academic success. Other areas, if you walk down my hallway, you're going to see a big blue sheet that's laminated that has a bunch of flowers on it. And as the grade levels, I think this one is attendance, the better attendance that a grade level has, the higher the flowers go in each one. And that just creates that type of, culture in the school where we're just trying to promote that piece of excellence. Career readiness in high school transition. So, when you look at middle school as a whole, you have two different sections. You have the 5th graders that are transitioning into 6th grade, and then you have the 8th graders that are transitioning into high school. So you have two different types of unique students, to be said. I mean, everyone here is at a middle school, I'm sure, so you know what I'm saying. So, one thing that we've done with, I'll say, the 6th grade group, with being able to meet with them weekly, I personally meet with them weekly, they meet every day. Within that first 5-week period when we're assessing where we're sitting academically with the 4 classes, ELA, math, social studies, and science, having those conversations of where do we sit with our pacing? Like where are we going academically? Do you have enough time? And one thing that we did in the 6th grade was we increased the academic times for those 4 core classes, math, science, social studies, ELA. And we were able to create a bell schedule that is unique just to the 6th grade team. And after 5th period, they go right into the regular bell schedule. So we were able to increase all of those academic areas within the first 5 weeks after having those type of conversations with the students. High school, for the other students, transitioning into the high school, those 8th graders, they have gone to Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES on field trips. They've done, career exploration. A lot of the classes that they're taking is allowing them to get a little taste of every area. So when they do enter into the 9th grade, they have some sort of a direction of where, if they have the direction of where they want to go. They get a taste of shop, they get a taste of art, they get a little taste of everything that allows them to explore. Our main goal here is to, create a student that's going to be successful in high school and then obviously get out into the real world and contribute. So, with that being said, some of the other things that we have here with the culture and communication, clubs and activities, we have a ton of different clubs that they can experience. Outing club, honor society. I'm not going to name them all because I just don't have them in my brain. But with those clubs and activities, every month we have an activity night. We also are utilizing the activities for that 10th period, where they're able to not only come and get extra academic help, but they're also being provided transportation home, so when it comes to that transition from getting through the academic day, they can roll right into a club or any of those organizational pieces. And then again, to kind of reiterate what Dennis talked about, we are still focused on all of these, but I want to just reiterate that we are constantly improving them. That's one of the main things that we're doing collectively as a high school, middle school, elementary. We are really focused on the strategic plan, and we are all aligned. Questions? And then I don't have a cool picture like that. So.
Any questions?
I have a question. So first of all, I think that this is really great and I think it's a really awesome way to have the students take some accountability for themselves too, but with the support of a teacher. So my questions are, when they meet with the teachers, with their grade level teachers, do they receive any guidance on how to reach their goal? And if they sit down the next time and they haven't reached their goal, is there like a reflective piece where the teacher is able to kind of walk through, like, what do you think went wrong? So I guess I'm just wondering what that meeting was like.
That's exactly what that conversation is.
Okay.
Is how do we achieve those goals? Where do we want to be after this next assessment? And if we didn't reach those assessments, let's take a step back, and what can we do differently?
Okay.
That's the main reason why the teachers that are having those conversations are having them, because they're the ones that really have great relationships with these students, grade level wise.
Yeah.
And they're extremely informed of how that panorama piece works, but also the goal setting sheet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question for
Yeah.
Mr. Smiley. So is this, the packet that you gave us, the last page, is that what you refer to as the social emotional piece? That has like the attendance and the is this, you said towards the end? So I was just wondering, and I don't know if this is just for an example, but you mentioned, I think, buying earbuds or something like that as some sort of reward. Is there any section in here where the rewards or accolades are listed?
No.
Okay. Is there,
I don't
I'm just
know
wondering.
if we can pull that on the panorama piece, but I'm sure that we can add that into.
The only reason I asked is just because, is that a dumb question?
They're two separate
Yeah.
systems that
Okay.
can't talk.
Okay, so
Kind of looks like this right here.
those
So
are some nice pictures. The only reason I asked is because I was just thinking if you have behavioral type issues listed and maybe some not so great choices that were made, there were other opportunities to also see, well, these are the good choices that you made, or
Yeah.
you're wearing earbuds because you made good choices, or whatever it is. I just didn't know, obviously, if they're two different systems that don't communicate, that probably makes life a little more difficult.
One thing that I can say on a positive note is all of this is new. So what
Yeah.
I just gave to you guys as far as the information is what we're currently working on to make these improvements. As far as what we're doing moving forward, always open to suggestions, but always, working to really utilizing this data to make these decisions throughout the whole piece.
Yeah, it was just an idea. I just think I
Yeah,
was
no,
thinking
it's a-
about Mr. Taylor's comment about eating in this room, which is amazing. But how great it is if you make good choices in the cafeteria. I think you see that all the way up through.
Yeah.
I mean, when kids are recognized, they're excited about it. So I was just wondering if it was an option. Other questions for Mr. Smiley?
I have a question, just a comment, which I would agree. I love the idea of being able to add the positive reinforcement into this conversation as well. But I just want to applaud the district and the teachers this is a lot of dedicated time
Yeah.
to meet individually with each student. So I just want to applaud the district for doing this, implementing it, and the teachers that have stepped up to be that point person to sit and have those conversations with each student. So I think this is great, and I'm excited to see results and where it takes us.
Yeah, so am I.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Mr. Smiley.
Yeah,
Thank you. We'll really applaud you. So we can really applaud now. Okay, we're gonna move on. Could I have a motion for the minutes of the meeting on March 6th, please? Mrs. Kaiser, and a second by Mrs. Bliss. Any questions, corrections, additions, subtractions? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, moving on. I would take a motion for all of the financial reports if Mrs. Fold, and a second by Mrs. Allen. I just want to say, and I hope that Mrs. Bliss would agree with me, the timeliness of the reporting has been fantastic. So thank you to both of you for that.
Yes, agree.
Any questions on these? Okay, all in favor?
Can I ask one question? I'm sorry.
I didn't even see your hands, I'm sorry.
Liability reserve, is that, I thought we moved that, but I see it's still reflected.
Yes, so Phyllis hasn't made that entry just
Okay.
yet. I did reach back out to her to have it implemented.
Okay.
So that'll hit before the end of the year, so when we close out, it'll still be accurate on our year-end closeout.
Okay, perfect. That's all. I'm ready now.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, moving on. I would take a motion for the consent agenda, 1, 2, 3, and 4, with the exception of, bear with me, 3, 9.
I would make a motion for that.
Mrs. Bliss, thank you, and a second by Mrs. Decker. So it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, all but 9, and 4. Any questions on this group? Okay, when you're ready.
Okay. Mrs. Decker? Yes. Mrs. Bliss?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Foltz?
Yes.
And Mrs. Madigan?
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'll take a motion for,
I do want to say congratulations to Shelby Whiffen, who I don't think is here, our new district treasurer. So I'm excited for the district to have an in-house treasurer again.
yes, I don't think I saw her, so I would have recognized her, but yes, congratulations. She could be hiding in the group though, so. Thank you, Julie. Okay, so I would take a motion for E3, number 9, please. Mrs. Kaiser, and a second by Mrs. Folds. Oh my goodness. All right,
Lordy,
Mr. Van
Lordy.
Orman, do you have anything to say about this short-term employee?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, yesterday morning, as we returned from our solar eclipse time on Monday and our spring break, Mrs. Herbst graced me with her presence yesterday morning and delivered the letter that you see in front of you, submitting her letter of resignation for retirement purposes. So, for over 20 years, Julia has dedicated her time and services to the students in the community of Red Creek. And certainly, all of the students have benefited from her time and her leadership, but as she indicated in her letter, the lives of students with disabilities, she's been a staunch advocate as a voice for them. So I appreciate her leadership, her vision, her dedication to our students, and hopefully we are in a much better place because of her work over the last 20 plus years. So it's been a pleasure to work with her, work under her, work beside her. We've worked together through thick and thin for a long time, so it will not be the same without her here next year.
Thank you.
Man, last minute, now we can't all get the feels out and everything. Thank God we got a few more months. Mrs. Herbst, we really appreciate everything that you've done, and I can't tell you the number of parents I personally have come across that feel better knowing that you've been involved with their children. So I hope you take good memories from us too. And like I said, we have a couple more meetings and months to make sure that we bring up some really embarrassing information and publicly say it on camera so that that you can remember all that stuff too. So thank you very much.
I have to say, during my time here working, we worked together for 12 years, and you were probably one of the most fun personalities that I worked with here at Red Creek. You could always get a story out of Julia. But with the exception of paperwork, because paperwork, I don't know, incredibly knowledgeable when it comes to the world of special education. And just the amount of knowledge that you had about special education, about the kiddos that you worked with and their families and what was good for them. And I would hear numerous conversations just of you working and having conversations with co-workers on ways to help their kids. Like, you were just always helping everybody. in any way that they could. I'm very thankful Red Creek has had you here all this time. Like I told you, I wish we could have gotten another year out of you, but have fun watching your son, who doesn't want you there, at his baseball games.
Does anybody think this was a setup between her and Becky Snyder? Or, I mean, I just, like, that just crossed my mind. Okay, when you're ready.
Mrs. Foltz?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss?
Yes.
Mrs. Decker?
I don't want to, but yeah.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Madigan?
Yes. Thank you, Julie. Okay, we're gonna move on. F new business, if somebody could make a motion for a group.
There's a lot of them.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Bliss?
I'm sorry, I said there's a lot of them.
Oh, I thought you said none of them. I'm like, well, that's not an option. so.
Motion 1 through 9, unless I can go further and just ask a question. I have a question on 10.
We could ask a question if we, could we take them all together?
Sure.
Any objections to that? So that would be F1 through 18. That would take a second. Mrs. Kaiser.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest wave ever, Joel.
Sorry.
It's totally fine. Okay, Mrs. Allen, you have a question on number 10?
I do, yep. I found the point system incredibly interesting, so my eyes were attracted to the price submitted column. And so at first I was a little bit confused of what the recommendation was based off of the price, but then I saw the wording that said that there's an indication that they'd be willing to reduce the above. So can you just maybe elaborate a little bit more on?
Yeah, certainly. So through the RFP process, we conducted interviews, as this transmittal indicates, with these 4 companies. We had an interview committee panel. Danielle had prepared a number of questions. We had an opportunity as committee members to review their proposals, which included the price and a lot of other timelines and incidentals. It was also a great opportunity for our committee, which included Danielle, myself, Pat Davenport, and then our 2 architects from King & King, to not only hear from some of the sales reps and some of the upper level management people from these firms, but Danielle had also asked that each of these firms bring the actual people that will be on site day to day with us, so that we could lay eyes and hear from the people that will be here every single day. One of those companies, CNS, during that interview process indicated that they'd be willing to review their price structure if that was of interest to the district. So after we conducted all of the interviews in an afternoon, as we were conducting reference checks and so forth, Danielle reached out and said, hey, you threw this out to us. What can you do? She was clear that we didn't want a change to what had been presented in terms of level of service or the people. Oftentimes with construction managers, it's really about the person that's here on site, their knowledge, their understanding of the trades, being able to forecast and protect the district on the quality and the craftsmanship of the work, the timelines of the work that's being done. So we didn't want to get a better price but lose the quality that we were expecting from that company. So they, I guess, sharpened their pencil a little bit, and that factored into our decision as well. So I think it was a good faith effort by them to show that they were really willing to work hard for our business.
Great, thank you.
Other questions? Jolene, do you have something, or I don't know if you're looking up something?
No, I had missed a meeting.
Sorry.
The recommendation of the award. I had seen the resolution. I'm fine.
Oh, okay,
I'm good.
okay.
I couldn't get it to come up, so I was looking at it.
No, that's okay.
I don't understand the points awarded either, but
it required us to like really read that
Yeah.
report with a fine tooth comb, but it was interesting to see how, like why use a point system, like just.
Pick
just
somebody.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I think it's important, you know, I think as we've, you know, tried to be open and transparent with so many things, we didn't want to give the perception that it was a certain company or a certain individual that we just, you know, had some arrangement with previously or so we tried to quantify some of that decision with numbers, obviously.
Well, and did you also share, I think, in some feedback that we've used CNS before, so there is a little bit of a comfort level with that particular contractor?
Yes, we had recently used them 2 projects ago. And then our most recent project, we used Watchdog as our construction management firm, and they did not submit a proposal this time around.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Good.
Okay. Okay, when you're ready.
Yes. Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Decker? Mrs. Foltz?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss?
Yes.
And Mrs. Madigan?
Yes, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to correspondence. Any questions on the administrative reports?
No questions, and he's not here this evening, but I loved, in Mr. Wallace's report, I loved seeing the relationship building superstars. I thought that was really great. So I wanted to thank him for including that. And then similarly, in Mrs. Deviney's report, thank you for sharing all of the quoted feedback. That was really great to read through all of those comments.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Norman, did you want to address did you have anything to say on the annual report or anything?
So G2 is the BOCES annual report and BOCES candidates. So we are not required to vote on that tonight. That is a next time, April 24th meeting. But I wanted to get that out to you folks in advance so that you had an opportunity to review. If you have any questions or comments, if you would like send them my way, I can pass them up the chain and then feed that information back to you folks should there be anything. Of course, we work under Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES, so this is an annual thing, just like our budget process. It's just each component district has to act on their budget as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about that? So to ask if you have any questions to email Mr. Van Orman prior to the next meeting so he can take care of that. I just have one other thing to add. I've talked to a couple of board members that are chairs for specific committees that do have some regular movement or action on them. I'm going to pick on Mrs. Allen for a minute. The community center regularly meets, so starting at the next meeting, we're gonna give that opportunity for committees to update the board if there's anything going on. Now, there might not be, and so there's nothing really to report, but Mr. Van Orman and I have both noticed that there's some other local districts that do that and just give the opportunity for just a couple of minutes or maybe less than a couple of minutes if necessary, maybe more, where we can just kind of get up to speed with what's going on. And then also it'll be a good evaluation tool we had talked about before about what committees are really committees and what are kind of placeholders for our group. So I'll touch base with anyone that's a chair that would be involved in that. For example, if you're a negotiations chair, that's not something you'll be reporting out in public to. But for someone like Mrs. Allen that does the community center, we're going to give those groups an opportunity to just kind of fill the rest of us in, so we can all be on the same page on what's going on.
I think that's great.
Is that okay? All right, perfect. If there's nothing else, I would take a motion to move into executive for a negotiations matter, please. Mrs. Decker, and a second by Mrs. Bliss. Thank you very much for coming. I believe Mr. Carter or Mrs. Deviney will sign your paperwork.
Yeah. I just go to bring this outside, please.